I know a lot of people love blue cocktails, and you also said you'd love to see a homemade tonic recipe without quinine. Hi friends of cocktails! Today we'll make a blue gin and tonic using our new DIY tonic syrup without cinchona or quinine. And of course, no blue curacao or colored gin. We'll add blue spirulina, but that's optional, so if you just want a plain gin and tea, just don't use it. On the other hand, doesn't this look beautiful? You know it does. And it's delicious too. Plus, if you need a drink to enjoy while watching Avatar The Way of Water, this blue gin and tonic will be perfect. To make it a little extra special, I'll actually use birch water to make the tonic, and we'll flavor it with things like chamomile and elderflower. All of that and the primrose garnish. It's no wonder this cocktail reminds me of all the things I love about the spring, so I'll call it the Spring Gin and Tonic. And with spring just starting, this makes it perfect timing. It's cocktail time. You could say this is the third installment of the Gin and Tonic on Cocktail Time, with the first one also covering a basic DIY tonic syrup, and the second one covering over 250 years of the Gin and Tonic evolution, just a few weeks ago. As we already mentioned, you have to be really careful when making homemade tonic syrup with cinchona bark, since the quinine, which is what makes tonic water bitter, can be really dangerous when ingested in high doses. We also provided sources with more information about chinonism and showed you pre-made alternatives by professionals. But there's also another alternative to cinchona bark when making DIY tonic syrup, and that's Quassia bark, or Quassia Amara. This bittering agent will give our tonic water a similar bitter taste, but without quinine. We'll also need a lot less than when using cinchona bark. Bark of the Quassia tree, which is native to South America, has been used for centuries in traditional medicine to treat a variety of ailments, and is also commonly used as an appetite stimulant. One of the active compounds found in Quassia bark is quassin, which is responsible for its bitter taste, and has been shown to have antimalarial, antipyretic, and anti-inflammatory effects. But even with Quassia, you have to realize things that taste bitter in nature are that way for a specific reason, to ward off predators from eating them. So bitter ingredients should always be used sparingly, with the knowledge of what and how much you're using. But along came the Brits, with their gin, and the rest is history. With that being said, even if you use Quassia bark to make tonic syrup, it's still not recommended for women during pregnancy. And no gin either, of course. But quassin is 50 times more bitter than quinine, so the amount we need to make our spring tonic syrup will be firmly on the safe side for most people. So let's make it. Here are the ingredients you'll need to make the tonic syrup, and I'll use the sous vide technique because it gives me the best control over temperature and there is no evaporation. As mentioned, we'll use birch water, which is harvested by drilling a hole into the birch tree trunk and leading the sap into a container, in a similar way you may know from maple trees. The collection period is only about a month per year, at the start of spring, when the sap moves intensively. The wound is then plucked to minimize infection. Birch sap has a somewhat silky texture and is slightly sweet, not unlike coconut water, but we'll still add some sugar and balance that with citric and malic acids. For some extra spring floral flavor, I'm adding elderflower and chamomile, and the key ingredient, the bittering agent, Quassia Amara. So into a sous vide bag, add 150 grams of birch water, 150 grams of sugar, 7.5 grams of citric, and 3.75 grams of malic acid, 0.6 grams of elderflower, 0.7 grams of chamomile, and 2.7 grams of Quassia Amara. If you can get birch water, you can of course use plain water, or even mix regular and coconut water, since birch water has a similar mineral taste and silkiness. Sous vide is set to 70 degrees Celsius, or 160 Fahrenheit, and we leave the bag in there for 1.5 hours. During that time, give the bag a shake a few times to help the syrup dissolve and pick up flavors evenly. If you'll be making the syrup in a pan, use a lid and a food thermometer to try and keep the same temperature. Once it's done, place the bag in cold water to cool down before opening. You'll want to filter out all the small bits, so I'm using a rinsed coffee filter. Since quassin is much more bitter than quinine, we didn't have to grind the quassia bark like we did for cinchona bark, which makes adequate filtering easier. With that, all we have to do is bottle it and it's ready to be used. So now that we have the spring tonic syrup, we can make the spring tonic water, and I thought it would be fun to make it blue. So I got some blue spirulina. You know, that blue-green algae that's responsible for culinary masterpieces, such as mermaid toast, unicorn frappuccinos, and the Blue Lagoon smoothie bowls. But in all seriousness, this superfood is packed with antioxidants, nutrients, and minerals, and best of all, it doesn't have that pond water taste that some people get from green spirulina. And instead of using soda water, we'll again use birch water and carbonate everything in easy gourmet whip. And I swear, this episode isn't sponsored by Big Birch. Birch water is just something more people should know about. It has a ton of benefits and it tastes good. Again, read more about it through the link in the description. We will of course add a few drops of saline solution as well. So let's make the tonic. One thing to note is that it's best to have everything well chilled, including the cream whipper. Start by adding 1.5 ounce or 45 ml of our Spring Tonic Syrup. I'm using a smaller half-liter container, so if yours is bigger, you can double the amounts. Next I'm adding 8.5 ounce or 255 ml of birch water. Like mentioned before, regular water works fine if you can't find this. Then add 6 drops of 20% saline solution to enhance our spring flavors. And to give it a nice blue color, 0.1 gram of blue spirulina will be enough. Close the cream whipper and give everything a shake to mix in the spirulina before adding a CO2 cartridge. Once it's carbonated, give it a shake again and place it in the fridge for a little while before you give it a taste. Because we used birch water, it will foam up a bit more than if you use regular water. But pour it slowly and you'll get to enjoy not just the color, but also the familiar tonic aroma and bitter taste, with a pleasant floral addition. It's great on its own, but like we mentioned a few episodes back, when you find the perfect pairing of tonic and gin, it brings both ingredients to a new level. So let's use this to make a spring gin and tonic. As with the modern variation of the gin and tonic in that old versus new episode, start with a chilled high tumbler glass and a clear ice beer. Then add 1.5 ounce or 45 ml of gin Malfi con limone. Since our spring tonic isn't citrus forward, this gin with Italian sun-ripened lemons and Amalfi lemon peels will provide the citrus notes. All we have to do is top up the glass with our Spring Tonic Water. I'm going with 3:1 ratio of tonic to gin this time, so the subtle floral notes in the tonic don't get overpowered by gin's botanicals. Garnish with a primrose flower. And that's it. Spring is here, friends of cocktails. Cheers! Due to the gin we used, it still has more citrus than floral on the aroma, but the taste is the perfect balance of the two, with a subtle bitterness on the aftertaste. It's a lighter but a truly enjoyable gin and tonic, perfect for the spring. Winter has its cocktails, summer definitely has its cocktails, and so does the fall. But I'd love to hear what your go-to spring cocktails are. Share them in the comments below. Next week, I'll be doing the second installment of Zero Proof Cocktail Time, so check out the alcohol-free bitters episode in the meantime. I'll see you then. Cheers!